All right. We're looking better now? Yeah. I think now we're okay. It's unusual. So I streamed a quick test stream last night with those same settings and it worked just fine. But apparently did not like it this morning. So I've decreased the bitrate actually that I'm sending to Twitch on the video, and now it seems better. So if you're out there and you would like to confirm that, that's cool. But I just now checked on my view of the stream and it seems fine. I'll carry this around on this side as well, I suppose. It's a little strange. And I should be careful not to scribe these lines too deep because it'd be pretty easy to just make it so that this end will just completely break off. So I gotta be careful of that. Looks like Twitch is slightly unhappy again. So let's make sure that we're still okay. Yep. Looks like we're still okay. All right. I'm just gonna assume at this point that it's good for now and that I should stop worrying about it. Yeah, so that actually kind of makes that little unsightly gap slightly better. So I'm good with it. Cool. Nothing else that I see that needs to sort of go between these two parts, so we will separate them back apart again, if I can remember my part separator. It's working. That's good to hear. Yeah, so I ended up rearranging stuff in my studio just a little bit in the last couple of days over the weekend, because we had that hurricane that came through here last week, toward the end of the week, and my studio space is in our garage, and I was concerned that there would be leaks around the garage door, which is over here to my right, or around this window that's to my left. But it was hard to tell if water had leaked in at all because of all the furniture and the desk and stuff. So I had to move everything out of the way to, so that I could get in there behind to make sure that I hadn't had any water damage on the floor or along the wall. And so it took me a couple days to move everything out and then move everything back and get it reorganized once I had convinced myself that I didn't have that much water that had come in. I had a little bit and it was fairly easy to clean up. So that gives me confidence going forward that, regular like rainstorms that we get here in Florida won't be bad as far as getting letting water into my space here. But I should be careful in the future about hurricanes if we ever have another big one. And the big deal with that was not the rain so much as the fact that it was raining sideways because it was so windy. As the hurricane came through, the wind was blowing right up against the garage door and this window. And that, obviously forced some in around the door. But now it's good. Everything's clean again. in the space and organized. So at least it forced me to reorganize, and I moved a few things around to make certain tools and things easily accessible here up on my desk. So that was nice. But it did preempt my working on this project for a little bit more than a week. So not like I'm on a specific schedule, but I would like to get this thing finished. So I'm gonna try my best to work some extra hours on it this week so that I can work on getting it finished up. Yeah, I mean, for us, you know, because I've lived here for a while, like hurricanes aren't a super scary thing unless they're gonna make landfall right where you live. And this particular one, I'm on the east coast of Florida, and so it made landfall on the west coast and came all the way across the state, which, you know, is only a couple hundred miles. But it had been on land. It did actually pass right over us. Like the eye of the storm went right over where I live. However, it had come across, you know, a couple hundred miles of land before it got here. So that causes it to decrease in strength quite a bit. So it was nothing we were super worried about. It did get pretty windy for a little while though. It tore the, I have a screen enclosure around my back porch on my house, and there's an aluminum screen door on the outside of that, and it tore that right off its hinges. The door did not thankfully blow away. It was just laying in my backyard, so I was able to get a couple of replacement hinges and put the door right back up. So that was the extent of the damage that I got from this hurricane. And actually that same door has blown off before in other storms that we've had, so it was not unexpected. Where is my brush? Here it is. Right, so I'm gonna separate out this handle bit, I think. Just very lightly and with a smaller scriber. The best thing about that storm coming through, or the best thing after it finished passing by, is it seems like it finally brought fall weather here to Florida. So instead of being in the 80 degrees Fahrenheit range, which it had been, and super humid, it's been down in the 70s and quite a bit drier for the last few days, and I hope it stays that way because you can actually go outside and not just immediately start sweating. Also managed to venture out yesterday, and I went by I guess I'd call it my local hobby shop. It's like an hour away, so it's not super local, but it's the closest one that I have that sells Gunpla. I went in search of the real grade God Gundam, assuming that they would not have any left in stock. I knew they had gotten some a couple weeks ago, but I figured they had sold them all out, and they had. But they had the full mechanics Raider Gundam there, so I grabbed that. At some point I'll build that to go with the other guys that are back there on the shelf behind me. The Calamities are back there. So that was the extent of my findings at my local hobby shop yesterday. And then I picked up some supplies, some tape and stuff like that. This project has used up so much of my masking tape that I needed more. It got so quiet there for a second I thought the music had broken. But here it goes again. Alright, I think that does it for that part. We will, actually before I put this away, I'll do the same thing on this other one. So one thing I dislike about scribing around kind of recessed edges like this, like I'm doing here in this handle of the gun, is that later I'm going to want to sand that to, you know, get rid of the little edges that are left by the scribing process. And it's really difficult to sand in those kind of concave areas like that. So I don't know if anybody has tricks for sanding such areas, but I usually just cut off a very small piece of a sanding sponge and, you know, hold it like on the end of some tweezers or something like that and try to use that to sand in this little area. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, and the other thing that I find actually that works is just a toothpick, right? So same sort of thing, you can just deburr it like this with a toothpick, and that helps some. But I always find that I've missed something and I actually want to go and sand just a little bit in there. Oh, I did this little area as well, didn't I, on the other side? I've never used a MadWorks chisel, so I'll have to go and look and see how those look and why they're different. So as always seems to be the case, when I start a stream, my phone, which is currently in my pocket, has been vibrating with notifications like almost constantly. And it never does that except for if I'm in a meeting or I start a stream. So I'm not sure what proper stream etiquette is, but I'm gonna grab the phone out of my pocket and at least put it somewhere where I can see it. because I just want to make sure that like my family's not trying to get in touch with me. They know not to come in here. I have a super fancy, not super fancy at all. It's like a door hanger sign that says on air to let them know that if they open the door behind me, they're going to be on stream, and they don't want to be. So they leave me alone while that sign is up. However, sometimes they text me to try to get my attention if they need something. All right, so I already did that little edge there when we did the opposite side. So that seems fine. These little indented six-sided areas here and here, I will, I'm not worried about like scribing around the edge there because I'm just gonna hit that with some sort of enamel paint to add a little bit of color after I've done everything else. That'll be easy to clean up the edges of. And then this little detail here, there's actually some detail inside of this circle. Not sure yet how I'm going to paint that, but it does not need any scribing work for sure. So that seems fine. I suppose at this point I should probably check YouTube and make sure that the stream over there is okay, given that we messed with the other end of it for Twitch purposes. Yeah. Seems good. Okay. Cool. So this thing has tons of detail on the top side and a little bit of detail on the bottom side, but I remember from when I took these things apart that weirdly these lines don't match up where they wrap around the edges. At least they don't always match up, and that annoys me. So the plan here is going to be, I guess we carry this line over to that edge there, and then we come up that way so that that can meet up. And then those are fine. Weirdly, the interior they actually carried that line around the edge, which they haven't been doing with other parts. That edge won't be visible, so that's fine. And so this edge here is a problem. It comes up to here and then it just stops. And the top side pattern that's here isn't done in such a way that you could really very easily make that match up. Like I guess I could take this edge where it comes over right there, and then this edge where it comes over here, and I could connect them like this at a weird angle. Not crazy about that. Doesn't seem correct. However, that might be what I do. And then this little indentation, when it comes over the edge here, does not go anywhere either. Although it wants to come up to here. So if I very carefully scribe along that little narrow edge, I should be able to make that into something good. All right. So that is going to be the plan. And we are going to do that weird angle. Okay, fine. So let's put this together and scribe it together and then take it back apart again. Yep. That'll be the plan. Whichever way I decide to put this tape, it's not going to have a lot of surface area to adhere to. Adding to the challenge. Alright, that'll be fine. I may have to break out the crazy goggle things, the magnification goggles, to do this precisely. Although this is not that bad. Alright, that should be fine. Yeah, I guess that's gonna be okay. These shield pieces have such weird geometric angled patterns on the front of them anyway, that I guess carrying this weird angled line over to the side actually kind of makes sense, so it's gonna work. It's one of those things that looks a little better in real life than it did in my head before I started it here, so that's good, I suppose. Yeah. All right, other side. And then the really tricky one will be next. Make sure that's stuck down really good, because like I said, it doesn't have a lot of surface area to stick to on this small edge here. That worked out okay. Now, this little edge needs to come. I don't know if I want to do it on this side of the corner or this side of the corner, or try to do it right on the corner itself, which would be tricky. Either way, I need to deepen this line a little bit first to give me a starting point to work from. And if I'm going to do that, I might as well just go ahead and trace along this edge as well. All right, there we are. So now I need to come from here to there. And actually, just like I did on the other side, we will deepen this existing line just a touch as well. That'll make it easier to end right into that line. Perfect. Okay. So I think the easiest way to make this look good is going to be to place the tape along here and go along that edge. So that's what we'll do. Oh, hey, welcome and congratulations. So now that you've built your first kit, are you like itching to go get another one and build it right away? Or what are your thoughts? Are you happy with the one and you're good? Or are you gonna try more? That's the question. Because like for me, I built something, I don't even remember what it was. I think it was a SD kit early on. And I was like, oh, now I have to get more. Okay, I see. I'm trying to recall which Zaku 2 that one is. Is it the Origin version? Let me search real quick and see. Is it that one? Yeah. That's different from the one that I built. I don't build a lot of high-grade kits, but yeah, I've heard decent things about that kit. Bad wrist joints in that they're like loose, like if he can't hold a weapon in his hands without it flopping, or something else. All right, so here we go with the most delicate scribe right along this edge. Yeah, it's gonna be fine. The trick is, if there is a trick, to be super light on the first couple passes just to make sure, especially because I don't have a lot of tape to work against here. In fact, you know what? I'm gonna move this piece of tape just a touch out to give me a slightly better something to have for the scribing tool to have purchase against. That'll work. Okay. The crazy thing, right, is that I'm spending all of this thought and effort on this one line here, which in the final, well, two things. I have to do it 3 more times because there's 2 of these and each one of them has 2 sides. And then secondly, in the final build, when this thing is finally put together and posed, this isn't gonna be all that visible. However, it bugs me that this line wasn't designed in a way that it finishes itself out, and so I feel like I need to do this. It's also impossible to see what I'm doing because it's right here on this edge, so I just have to trust that by feel it is working correctly, and it seems like it is. Cool. All right, so if I pull this off and then I look at what's happened here. Yeah, that worked okay, and then actually I can probably just finish it off like so with this tool. Not sure how deep I want this to go though. I'll just use this version or this side of it. Yeah, we'll actually go with the deeper side. Yep, that's gonna work well. Hey, that looks really good actually. Right, so the camera is not gonna show this with the amount of bright light that I have shining from above, but right here where my fingernail is, along this edge, there is now a nice little indentation that connects this line down here with this edge up here, and looks like it was meant to be that way. And like I said a minute ago, the only bad news is now I have to do this 3 more times. And actually, now that I have that little edge, I can probably use this very narrow, smallest of my scribing tools just to clean up along there a tiny bit. Yep, and then once sanded, that should be really, really good. Nice. Okay. So what did I learn from that? Is it possible to do these other ones in a slightly quicker way? I think the answer is maybe. Yeah. So if I deepen this line, and then I come from the other side and get this little edge here, I might be able to just use the edge scriber tool on its own without having to scribe that guideline first. And that would make it a little bit simpler. So let's see if I can make that happen. because I do have a decent starting and ending point now along this edge, right? So let's see if we can get this to get the correct amount of purchase here. Yeah, that might work. It's gonna be a little tricky to get the very corner of it up here where the line starts to be just right without going over the edge there. So I'll have to watch that as I go. Yeah, just working a little extra on that corner up there to try to get it to straighten out. It's a little bit crooked at the moment. I don't like that one as much as the opposite side. So maybe the moral of this story is don't take a shortcut. Although it's definitely still fixable. Yeah, the problem with this approach is getting it even at the two ends of where the line is. Middle section is not a problem because this tool slides nicely along the edge there in the middle. But you have to be real careful when you get to the ends because if you miss and go over, then you will scratch the plastic in a way that is hard to repair. But now I believe that I can clean it up with this 0.15 millimeter scriber and we should be good. Yeah. It's looking the same as the other side. I actually did scratch up this surface, this top surface, just a little bit more with that approach. However, it will sand out just fine, it looks like. So I'm not too concerned about that. Fortunately, most of these rest of these lines are already deep enough that I don't think I need to go around because there's a ton on these parts. I'm not going to rescribe and deepen all of them. I'm going to grab a couple of little areas here that I know are not going to be good enough. And then we'll probably move on. And by moving on, I mean I have to do the other two of those really difficult lines that I just did on the other shield. So that edge is actually fine when it comes around the corner there. Yep, and those are going to be fine, and those are hidden, and those we did. And the only other thing is I said I wanted to carefully connect this and that. So the question is, can I make this scribe here without a piece of guide tape? Because it is through this angle. However, it's a very shallow angle. Not sure if I can... Yeah, I guess I can manage that without tape. Just be careful again at the corners. Yeah, so no problem with that angle. However, on the flip side of this part, it's a much shallower angle between the two surfaces. And so I am pretty sure that I need tape over here because this little edge is going to be tricky. Yeah. So that seems right, and then this will make it a lot easier to do this line. Way more confidently than if I had tried to just freehand it, for sure. Okay. So before I started today, I looked at these parts and I thought, these, you know, weapon and shield parts were going to be super quick because I wasn't adding a lot to them. However, then I looked more closely once we got started and realized that there were these lines that I did not like how they didn't connect, and so the plan was to have moved on to the mobile suit itself long before now. However, plans change, I suppose. Because I guess because of my perfectionist tendencies, right? It has to be perfect. All right. So now I am happy with what is left here. And I'm going to try relatively quickly to do the similar kind of thing over here. So the danger that I see a lot of times when I'm scribing, when I'm doing the opposite side or the second piece, or in this case it's like the third and fourth time I'm going to be doing these same scribes, the danger is that I rush because I feel like I've done this before. And when I rush, I make mistakes. So and then I spend even longer trying to clean them up. So the reminder for myself right now is take your time. Take your time, I guess, while also realizing that you already have had practice doing these exact same steps, and so you should be able to do them more efficiently and at better quality as long as you don't rush. So those two look great, and then we have these really tricky ones. So the music just got quiet, and I heard through my headphones, off in the distance somewhere outside of my house, a lawnmower. Hopefully you guys don't hear that or find it annoying. If you do. That's been one of the downsides of moving my build space out here into my garage, is that I hear a lot more noise from trucks going by outside and people mowing their yards, and even like people walking by on the street and talking loudly. Sometimes that makes its way here into my space. All right, so I think what I've decided, what I learned from doing this two different ways on the other side, on the other piece, is that I did not enjoy, but I liked the result better of actually trying to place a piece of tape and very gently scribe that edge before using this other tool. So that is going to be the plan with these other two lines that are matching. If I put this here and let it just stick out beyond the edge a tiny bit, like so, then I can carefully use that edge with my finger behind it as a guide to go from there up to there, right? Yeah. And again, I cannot see that this is doing anything or working. It's just the feel of the scriber on the plastic is really all I have to go by here. But that little bit there gives me enough of an edge to then make this tool work better. So what you do here is just run this along this edge like so, and it manages to grab purchase in that very small line that we created, and then just deepen it a tiny bit. Yep, and that is working. Right, so I'm glad I only have one more of these to do because they are tedious. However, if I had more than one of them to do, I now feel confident that I would be able to do them all really well, because that one came out almost perfect. And as I say that, I need to be careful not to slip and make a last-minute mistake that makes it not perfect. Yep, that looks excellent. Cool. All right, so one more to go on the other side here. So this is proof, right, that if you practice something enough times, you can get to be okay at it. That ended very suddenly. Why are we scribing the pieces? So, couple reasons. Sometimes I scribe to add additional detail. Today I'm not doing that. I am scribing these pieces to add some separation where I know. So I'm going to paint this kit, and I'm going to add more than just like this piece is completely white. I have some off-white colors and some other things to add some additional detail here. And so the areas that I know that I'm going to paint a different color, I'm scribing along those edges where the color is going to change, because that makes it easier to mask those parts later and then drop some panel lining wash into those lines to add separation between those different colored areas. So that's what we're doing today. And then also, this happens a lot on high grade kits. I would say more than it does on master grade kits, but a lot of times the panel line details that are on the kit itself like don't make sense, or there's a line like here. I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but I will try to rotate this so that it catches the light just right. So there's this angled line here that gets to the edge of this piece, and then it just stopped. So I added another line here to connect it to something on the back side, because it bugs me when a line gets to the edge of something and then doesn't wrap around or that sort of thing. So that is why we're scribing lines today. Like I said, sometimes I will, in a big open space, I will add, additional detail with lines, but these are detailed enough. They're just some little touches like that I want to add. And then also, if you're going to paint a kit, sometimes the panel lines that are on the kit when you get it are not quite deep enough, and so if you put too many layers of primer and paint, you run the risk of laying down too much paint, and then later on when you try to put, or when you try to fill those panel lines, it makes it harder to clean them up because they're not as deep as they need to be. So that's another reason to scribe lines that exist, is just to make them a touch deeper so that they take your panel lining fluid a little easier, especially after you've painted. Well, there's no rule that you have to paint your kits either, right? Like the thing about, especially the Gunpla kits that Bandai makes, is they tend to look pretty good straight out of the box, just built. And in fact, on the shelf behind me there's, I don't know, a bunch of them, and none of those are painted. Well, that's not true. 2 of those are painted, the rest are not. So yeah, you don't have to paint your kits. You don't have to feel bad if you don't want to paint your kits. But I would say if you want to try it, just, you know, pick something small, or maybe that you don't care so much about messing up, just in case you do, to practice on. So like an SD kit or a inexpensive HG or something like that, and give it a try. You might decide though that you enjoy it so much that you know, then you get sucked down the rabbit hole of paints and airbrushes and all those things. So be warned. So I've seen a few of those unicorn busts. I'm not sure which one you're specifically talking about, but I don't have any of those, and I've been interested in picking one up at some point. Seems like it'd be a cool display piece because of how it lights up, right? Does yours transform as well, or is it just in destroy mode only? Yeah, so this one turned out really good. So yeah, after practicing 4 times, or 3 times, the 4th one was fairly quick to do, and also came out looking really good. So now if I ever need to scribe a line along a corner, an outside corner like that again, I will feel better about pulling it off. So that's cool. All right, what else has to happen here? I'm trying to remember what we did over here. Oh, I have to follow those lines around. That's correct. So right in here. Hey, so that is a tricky problem, right? So I have a couple of things I do, and I don't have a good example right now because I'm just rescribing lines that are already here. But one thing I do a lot of lately is, if you look at this tape that I use for scribing, it has little horizontal, like parallel hash marks along it. They're actually 1 millimeter apart. And so let me stick this on the piece here and maybe you can see better. As soon as I figure out where I was going to put it. Yeah. Okay. So these millimeter lines on the tape, I use a lot of times to measure, right? So what I'll do is I'll lay out the design that I want to do, like on one arm part or whatever. And then I will take a photo of it with my camera phone, or, you know, with my camera on my phone, since I have it usually sitting right here with me. And then when I go to do the other side, I pull that photo up and I count the hash marks like between different landmarks on the piece, right? So you can count in from an edge, like it was, you know, 6 millimeters before the next corner that went this way or whatever. And that helps me a lot in trying to keep the symmetry correct. Before I got this tape that has the hash mark lines on it, I used to use a method. If you search on YouTube, you can probably find people that have made videos that go over this method of using like measuring dividers. Let me see if I can find one up here in my toolbox. Right, so you can get a tool like this, and it just has points on both ends, and you know, you can adjust the width of it. So you can use this to measure a distance, and then it's just sharp enough that you can scratch plastic with it, right? So you can measure a distance into a point, and then you can do this to just make a little very light scratch on your part, to mark a spot where, you know, a line should start or end or that sort of thing. So that's another method you can use. But yeah, lately I just try to use the millimeter marks on my tape and you know, line those up with either existing edges or lines on the part so that I can measure from things that already exist. Hope that makes sense. But that is the technique I use most of the time to try to get symmetry correct. It totally does depend on what I'm doing. And I have probably the same problem that most people do, right? Is that I don't ever do one project at the same time. Like I would get bored if I was just working on this Gundam, for example, for as long as I need to work on it to get it to where I want it to be. So like this thing I actually started last November, I believe. So it's been a while. However, I took a long break. I had some life stuff that came up that I had to take care of, but then also, you know, I've snap built probably 5 or 6 other kits during that time. And I've actually painted one other thing as well. So I just keep coming back to this one whenever I feel like it, rather than forcing myself into a schedule. But if I work on a kit, kind of, you know, full time without working on other things at the same time, typically to do like a master grade kit to the level that I like to, probably takes me, I would say, 2 months of working on it, you know, in my spare time, evenings, weekends, that sort of thing. That's probably typical time wise. But then the problem is, right, during those 2 months, lots of other kits have come out that I'm interested in, that I want to build. And so then I end up with this backlog of things that I'm like, oh, I should buy that one in case I want to build it someday. And then I spend so much time on each one that it takes forever to get to all the kits. All right, so I am now happy with these 2 bits. I'm going to sand these at some point and get them ready for painting, but I don't want to do that right now, I don't think. And I'm just looking quickly across the rest of the pile here for the weapons. Nothing here needs any, well, yeah, I'm going to stick with that statement. Nothing else here needs any scribing. I almost convinced myself that I needed to do those edges on this blue piece, but no, not going to do that. I just realized, I don't think that I ever showed on stream the end result of the things we were working on a couple weeks ago. The parts of this kit that are finished. So I was painting and then assembling, and then I did decals and top coat, I think off stream. We did decals on stream. Believe, but I top coated off stream, and then I had that hurricane come through, so I didn't stream for a week and a half or whatever. So now what I should do real quick here before we call it a day, let me grab those parts and just show them to you guys. I really wish I could get these 2 parts to come back apart without breaking. That would be awesome. I'm glad that they want to fit together well, because if they didn't, they, especially here at the ends, they would be prone to kind of splitting apart. However, it is a bit concerning to pry them apart here without breaking any of the pegs. I should have probably trimmed those 2 pegs that are right in the middle there. All right, there we go. They are now loose. He says, as they still do not come apart. All right, look, 2 parts came apart. All right, hold on a second. I'm gonna grab something. Here's our giant Ziploc of completed sections of this Penelope. So, trying to remember what we haven't seen yet. These are the feet. Which just fit onto the feet, right? So they're like shoes, I guess. And then the back part goes here. So yeah, those came out good. With the, I believe, yeah, I'm pretty sure actually, remembering back, that these were just all red parts. So the bottom of the feet was the same as everywhere else, and it was just red. So we've added a little bit of, you know, inner frame color gray here, a couple different colors. Yeah, the red came out really good. So that's that. And then the other parts that we were working on last time were this big tail section, which again has some of the nice red on it. This extension bit here is still a little bit loose. On the original snap build, this was super loose, the slide action there, and it didn't want to stay closed like this. With paint, it has tightened up a little, but I'm still not super happy with how loose this is, this joint in here. Yeah, so that's that. And then, you know what? I'm not gonna lay it down here in our scribing mess because I don't want it to pick up any of those little bits of plastic. I can always wipe it off later, but there. And then what was the other piece? Oh, it was the bird head, right? The chicken head itself. So yeah, that came out looking pretty good. And this piece was, or this was the bit where I ended up designing a part that I 3D printed that fits kind of in the middle section here and adds these 2 little side fins. This wasn't part of the stock kit. It had actually a little red and yellow bit that kind of fills in this area here. Yeah, so I wanted to add something different there, so I added this, and it adds something that looks like vents back there, and then these 2 fins. So that's how we're coming out so far, and then all of these other parts are left over from some of them from last November when I started working on it. But given that all of this looks so nice and detailed, and that this is mostly covered up, I'm gonna greatly simplify the amount of detailing and painting that we do on the Odysseus Gundam itself. Because like I said, it's going to be covered up by all those parts that are already good. So this is definitely getting painted, but probably is not going to have a lot of extra work done to it, except for like these little extension parts that fold down on the sides here to match up with the feet. They need to be gray like the inner frame. So there's some color changing I want to do, but probably not a ton of actual detail and scribing work on this guy once we get to him. So the plan was to get to disassembling that today, but I got sidetracked with the scribing on those shield bits, which was more work than I had originally planned. So yeah, that I think will do it for now. I'm gonna sand and prep those parts that we were just working on for painting off camera, because sanding on camera is maybe even more boring than scribing on camera. And then I will probably next time, so Friday? It's Wednesday today, right? Yeah. So Friday. Hey, thanks for stopping by, and have a good lunch. I am also going to go get lunch. And then on Friday we'll get to work on the Gundam itself, as far as disassembling and getting it ready for paint as well. So I hope you guys have a good day, and I will see you soon. See ya.